Welcome everyone to the January 7th, 2025 District Data Coordinator Meeting at the Mid-Hudson Regional Information Center. We are going from 9 to 10 a.m. this morning. Please sign into the chat with your full name and district if you haven't already done so. If you would kindly mute your microphone and turn your camera off, unless you're one of our speakers today, we would appreciate that. It saves bandwidth and carbon credits. The meeting is being recorded, so it will be available for you after the meeting today. You'll probably receive a link to it either today or tomorrow. And assets will also be sent to the field along with that link after our meeting. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. For anyone who joined us since, please go ahead and sign into chat with your full name and district. This is the introduction. So we will have some due dates and timelines as usual for you. And then we also have a special guest with us today, Celie Rueda from the Office of Career and Technical Education, to follow up on our guest who we had last month. We have another wonderful guest this month. So thank you for joining us, Celie. I see that you are here with us already, and we will be getting to your section shortly, followed by updates and reminders in that order, special testing and data. We'll have a little bit of things coming at you in the future, looking ahead, and should we have time remaining at the end of that, we'll have time for a Q&A. You can go ahead and feel free to use the chat function at any time. You can ask that way, and a colleague will either answer that directly in the chat or ask your question aloud for you. And then again, with the voice, go ahead and save it until the end, just for the sake of time. So we'll get started right now with due dates and timelines. Take it away, Samantha.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So we do have a few due dates coming up in January, as it's a busy month for New York State data collection. So keep in mind first that the MHRAC weekly migration deadline is always at noon on Wednesdays. So that's why you'll sometimes see an earlier date mentioned for data poll. So starting out with January 17th, we have the Special Ed Beds Day snapshot, the VR 1 to 9, the data is due. That Beds Day snapshot VR 1 to 6 and 8, they are due to be certified on January 21st in the PD system. So just remember, it does take time for the data to migrate over to the PD system, so resolve like any last minute issues. Then we have January 24th. We have a few items due, the first being student digital resources and the preliminary data poll for course instructor assignment and student class entry exit. So we're going to go into those a little more in depth later on today. January 31st and February 28th, these are our monthly due dates for the demographics, enrollment, programs, day calendar, and student daily attendance, to be sure that you're always importing and migrating on that biweekly and monthly basis for those items. So if you've had any weather-related days, have they been updated? Think about that. Or do you have your January Regents days updated in your day calendar? So those are just a few items to think about. Then we have our February due date, which is to be determined for the NYSESLOT pre-ID data for field testing. So once that date is released, the SIRS timeline will be updated by NYSED. So for now, I'm just going to pass it back over to Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. So last month, Michael Nastra from NYSED CTE office joined us to discuss middle level CTE and Perkins plan. And today we are happy to host Celie Rueda, who will expand on last month's presentation to discuss items related to high school CTE reporting. So good morning and welcome, Celie.
Good morning. Thank you. All right, let me share. It says I cannot share my screen yet.
Let's see.
It says someone else is sharing, so.
Let's see if you can. Can you request sharing? Is that a thing?
Let me see. We're gonna go big here. Let me try again. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Can you all see slides?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
it worked. Awesome. Okay.
Wonderful.
Awesome. So good morning. My name is Celie Rueda. I'm the Perkins Associate in the Office of CTE here at NYSED. I appreciate that you all had some questions for us so we can streamline the presentation a little bit. So I've taken the questions that you provided to Michelle and hopefully created kind of a Q&A presentation that meets your requests. All right, so a few of the questions centered around NYSED program approval, and not to go through the process of how that happens, but kind of what are the requirements once it happens. So a NYSED approved program has gone through an application review process with a content associate here in the Office of CTE. This process is outlined on our website should anyone have specific questions, but ultimately this process grants approval for up to 5 years. So while approved, the program can offer students such things as integrated and/or specialized credit in an academic content area, a 4+1 pathway to graduation, a technical endorsement on their diploma, and access to other stackable credentials. And during that time, the program is responsible for reporting data to SIRS and completing a 3S1 or post-program placement report annually for all the exiting concentrators. So these programs must be reapproved every 5 years, and those reapproval applications are due to our office no later than June 30th each year. The associates will work with the programs throughout the summer to ensure the program gets reapproved for the 5 years, and this must be completed by September 30th each year to ensure access to that program in SIRS Level 2. The list of approved programs is both in PDF and Excel on our website, and the Excel document is updated monthly. The Excel is sent to our Office of Information Reporting Services, or IRS, as we call it, and then goes out to Level 2. The last list is sent at the end of May, and that process then starts over at the end of September. So this allows programs to report data over the summer for June and August graduates in programs that technically had an expiration date of June 30th of that school year. Programs and courses that are offered by districts and BOCES that have not gone through this process are not directly overseen by our office. They are not required to report program service excuse me, they're not required to report performance data for those programs and courses to SIRS, but proper SCED codes should be used in enrollment data for data validity. So those programs and courses are not eligible for Perkins that Michael talked about a little bit last month, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the presentation. So Perkins eligibility, not every LEA is eligible for Perkins. Not every program is eligible for Perkins. So Perkins eligibility is first determined by allocation. And we use census data to determine those allocations using a formula approved by the Office of Career and Tech Ed at the federal level. So any new applicant, most of the time this applies to LEAs since all of our BOCES are Perkins recipients, but a new applicant must generate an allocation of at least $15,000 or more as determined by that census formula. Those allocations are posted on our Perkins application website each spring. If they meet this requirement, we confirm that their agency offers at least 3 NYSED approved programs in 3 different national career clusters. We then confirm the size of their programs using the SIRS 305 report, updating program intensity is important for this process. They must have at least 8 concentrators across all grade levels in those 3 programs to solidify their eligibility. Other scope and quality requirements are set forth in the legislation, but our NYSED program approval process ensures that these qualities are met by each program when it receives NYSED approval. Now, when we talk about these approved programs, one of the questions came up of, who is responsible for reporting the CTE data? And changes were made back in 2019, 2020, when the legislation was reauthorized, to connect program approval and Perkins funding more directly. So since then, only NYSED approved programs have been required to report student level data, and it is the program provider that is responsible for reporting the CTE data. So it's the agency that's operating the program. And we realize that BOCES and districts do need to share CTE data for purposes such as generations of transcripts, awarding of credits, and all of that. So what we see at the end of the day in a SIRS 345 report would be the ESSA indicators and then our CTE performance indicators that have come from the program providers. When we talk about concentrators, I mentioned that as part of the definition of eligibility. So we use the SIRS 305 report to verify enrollment in the NYSED approved programs and for Perkins eligibility. So a student's program intensity should be updated to reflect their current status in a program. It is a local decision when this is done. Some prefer to do it on a semester basis, some prefer to wait until the end of the year. And one of the questions posed is, do we need to wait until the end of the year to update the intensity? Can we do it preemptively and then verify that they reach that intensity at the end of the year? And again, ideally, as long as when that data is final, the intensity is correct, it's a local really decision when or how you prefer to do that. It's also a local decision between components and BOCES of how they want to do that back and forth, when they want that information available and final. We don't want people to wait until the last minute. And I know that's been a question of, at least at an LEA level, of, well, the BOCES doesn't update intensity until July. We need to verify it sooner. So again, that would be a conversation between the components and the BOCES itself. But if it is easier, I've asked Jeff Schaefer in IRS, and he is really okay with the preemptive updating of the intensity, knowing the student is on track to finish that course, to finish that semester, to finish that year. As long as the records aren't overlooked at the end, either is reasonable. So hopefully that, even though the SIRS manual describes what is shown on the screen, someone who has successfully completed, if it is everyone's decision that the student is on track to successfully complete, then you can by all means update those records and just verify them during Regents Week, during, whenever that works locally, whenever that type of information is verified by the counselors. But it's really okay with us either way. So one example, and maybe this will help also, we received from a data manager in the field, is that student A is in an Auto Tech 1 course in a district run program. So at the LEA, the course itself is 2 credits. It is the first course the student is taking in that SIP area. Should the student be reported as a participant because it's the first course, or a concentrator because it's 2 credits or more? So what do folks from the group think? Would the student be a participant maybe in January with 1 credit when they are halfway? Would they, by second semester, be a concentrator if they're on track to complete? Does anyone have any specific thoughts? And then I'll share with you what our what our response is. But
We got one in the chat that says
Yes,
concentrator.
concentrator.
so some concentrators.
Just one. That's the sole
Okay.
opinion.
All right. All right. Soul opinion, brave soul this early in the morning. I love that.
Oh,
Oh, we got
somebody
another
said
one.
participant.
Oh,
Contradicting participant.
okay.
You got to fight.
Okay. So in this example, this is the exact guidance that came from our office. So in this example, a student has completed the equivalent of 2 units of study when they have completed the course. Districts, however, have the autonomy to develop their own courses and unit length of those courses. And that goes way back to commissioner's regs for what is 1 unit of study. So in this case, once the student completes the course, they would be considered a concentrator and may even reach participant status at the end of the first semester based on seat time. Once a student has reached the equivalent, and we stress equivalent, of 2 full-year high school courses, they become a CTE concentrator. The word equivalent is the clarifier for both LEA and BOCES models for programs that are NYSET approved. So that link to Commissioner's Reg with a unit of study is the 108 hours of seat time. And very often, if a student is double blocked or a student goes to BOCES for half a day, it is sometime, usually in January, that they've already completed 108 hours. They're already a participant. Sometimes they're already a concentrator, depending on how that program is built and how many credits are built into it. So there is so that's what we always go back to. What is that equivalent? And right now, it's still using the Carnegie units in the 108 hours of time. So we have a lot of BOCES that in January, during January Regents Week, whenever is convenient, they will create those records or update those records, and those students become participants or concentrators mid-year, and then most of them cross over the line at the end. We also have the fair number who wait until June and say they have 2 credits, they have 3 credits, however many credits they have, and they wait until June to update that record. It is unfortunately a local decision on how you want to do the updating, but it does all come back to the years ago unit of study equivalent. And so while we say they've successfully completed a course equivalent to 1 credit, that's why the SIRS manual was updated and we tried to stress equivalency. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense and answers a couple more questions for folks. A few more questions came about for work-based learning. So work-based learning is a program quality indicator for Perkins. The indicator is also looked at during program reapproval. NYSET approved CTE programs are required to offer 54 hours of work-based learning, and this reporting tool is used to see the percentage of students who are taking advantage of this and who then achieve at least 54 hours. The data point is also used in the determination of the CDOS credential attainment. So once a student reaches 54 hours of work-based learning, they should be enrolled in our non-credit course code, which is 22202W. The Office of Information Reporting Services has provided the clarification that you see here. This outlines the templates that should be used so that the enrollment in the course is captured correctly and will then show in the SIRS 345 report for our Perkins recipients. So the work-based learning must be reported in student class entry exit, so it's connected to a teacher of record. The CIA and SCEE contain the main course information. The student class grade detail has the outcome, pass or fail. If a student is getting a grade, it can also be reported in this class grade detail. So the CIA and the SCEE should always be reported because CTE wants to know the certification of the people overseeing. Some of our more hazardous occupation programs do require a work-based learning coordinator with that coordinator extension, and we need to know which teacher is overseeing these hours where applicable. So the timing of the reporting is also a local decision. Some folks wait until June to enroll students when they're exiting the program. Some enroll them at the end of each semester. Some even enroll students in live time as they achieve the 54 hours. And some agencies choose to enroll students as soon as they reach concentrator status. And then they wait to schedule a grade when they complete 54 hours and exit from the course. So multiple ways to capture the same information. But either way, it's really the LEA and the BOCES that must develop a process to track the students involved in work-based learning and report once when they get to 54. Course data is not subject to level 0 historical collection. It must be reported in CIA with the assigned teacher and student class entry exit in the year the student is on track to meet the requirements. If then a student is an exiting concentrator and this is not reported correctly, it will not appear in the 345. And lack of this work-based learning data can impact Perkins recipients. If a recipient has not reported work-based learning, they are put on notice and an improvement plan is developed and approved by our office. They then have 2 years to rectify the non-compliance issue. If recipients are reporting, but particular programs do not meet 90% of our indicator for 2 consecutive years, they too can be put on notice and an improvement plan just for that program will need to be developed. So it can be a lack of reporting or knowledge of reporting that causes a recipient to receive an improvement plan, or it could be a particular program, and that's really a barrier inside of the program. Why are students not able to get these hours? Sometimes it's transportation, sometimes it's lack of business and industry partners, all sorts of things. But the major one we've seen over the past few years is that the recipient is not reporting the work-based learning. And then their improvement plan has to tell us how they're going to rectify that and what they're going to change moving forward so that we can see that it is actually being captured. But unfortunately, if it's missed, we cannot fix historical data. You can physically add a course to a student's transcript, but we will not see it through SIRS as far as historical goes. All right, does anyone have questions? I kind of sped through, but I wanted to use my time and try to capture all of your questions effectively.
Yes, there were a few questions as you were going through, so
Okay.
let me go back. I think the first one had to do with a link, and I sent that link.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Then there was a question about, do districts get Perkins funding if students attend at BOCES versus the district offering the CTE courses?
So Perkins recipients, so districts have two choices. If a district is eligible by themselves, so at the LEA, they offer 3 approved programs in 3 different clusters, and the district has the proper enrollment, so at least 8 concentrators, and they have an allocation of $15,000, they can apply for Perkins independently. If they do not meet those criteria, they have the choice, most of them, I don't know of any that choose not to, they sign a consortium agreement and they sign their allocation over to their BOCES where they are sending students. So it has to be one or the other. The BOCES will reach out to the components each spring, ask them if they'd like to continue to be part of the consortium, and they sign a fund use agreement form. But again, if they are eligible alone, they can remove themselves from the consortium. They just have to notify the BOCES prior to March 15th, and then they have to uphold all the requirements of the grant, including a biannual comprehensive local needs assessment, which is a whole nother conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This one I'm not, maybe Kathy will have to clarify, but it says something about the responsibility of the BOCES, not the school, if the BOCES is the provider, but I don't know in what context she was.
Hi, yeah.
Hi.
That was when on one of the screens when she was talking about code, the teacher of record and
Mhm.
all that kind of thing. I was assuming that's if that would be in our case. We don't do any programs here. We send them to BOCES. So I'm assuming we don't have to worry about that, and the BOCES does it. Is that correct?
Nope, just the BOCES, right? It's whoever's providing the opportunity. So if the LEA offers a co-op, a GWEP, something else outside of an approved program, or things like that, where students are acquiring work-based learning hours while they're at their home school, it can be a joint effort, but otherwise it is the BOCES that is enrolling students in that course code, and it's the CTE teacher or work-based learning coordinator at the BOCES who is the teacher of record for those hours.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think the last question was addressed, it looks like.
Okay.
So I think that we're set unless there's anything else from anyone. It looks good. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
For your time this
Anytime,
morning.
we have lots of folks willing to come and chat, and please, by all means, feel free to send questions to our office directly if you feel that they're more specific to what we do versus data support tickets up in IRS.
Well, we certainly appreciate that and
Oh, you're
appreciate
welcome.
your time this morning. Thank
No
you so
worries.
much.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.
You
Thank
too.
you, Seely.
Yep.
Okay. Everyone can see my screen again, correct?
Yes.
Office of CTE. Great. So we're gonna skip ahead here to updates and reminders. We're gonna start off with our colleagues in special services. Sarah Liner.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Sarah Liner from the Special Services team, and I have one reminder and a few new updates for you guys today. Your final reminder is for your Beds Day snapshot data for the current school year, also known as VRs 1 through 9. For the Beds Day snapshot, VRs 1 through 6 and 8 are the only ones that require certification. So likely your special ed office staff is taking a look at this data right now in the PD system to get that certified, because certification is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Just a reminder, it is on a Tuesday because Monday is that holiday. This means that the last day to migrate your Beds Day snapshot is Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 by 12 p.m. as Sam was stating your Wednesday deadlines earlier. So if you have not done so already, please make sure you're including the Beds Day snapshot in those routine migrations. Moving on. We have an announcement for you. This is in regards to VRs 11 and 12, direct from NYSED, also known as Indicators 11, which is your child find timely evaluations, and Indicator 12, which is your early childhood transition. Direct insert from the memo that came out from NYSED earlier this month. So I'm going to give you the brief synopsis of what all of this data means. There is also a link in this presentation to download the full memo yourself. So what is NYSED saying? NYSED is saying that from now on and going forward, so for the 24-25 school year going forward, all districts are required to certify their data for indicators 11 and 12. This is a change from previous years. I know last year they started to mix things up, but previously not all districts had to certify this data every year. This is the change. You're now required to. In addition to that, all districts are required to participate in yearly submission dates of the SC events data. And I'm going to clarify that on this next slide.
Does all districts include all BOCES as well?
That does not. Thank you for asking that question. This is for our public school districts that are required on reporting the new referral information for all of those students. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you.
So yearly submission dates. What do I mean by this? So this is not certification. Certification is only happening in September. However, NYSED is asking that information relating to VRs 11 and 12 is still present and available in the PD system throughout the year. Our first submission date for this data is January 17th. So yes, that is rather soon. The following submission date, we have April 11th, then July 11th, then finally September 12th. So please make sure that you are including the SC events in your routine migrations. That way the data has the opportunity to flow from level 0 all the way through to the PD system. So it is available for NYSED and your special ed offices to take a look at that. One last update in regards to VRs 11 and 12. This is only pertaining to a few applicable districts. I'm not going to call them out during the presentation, but the applicable districts were contacted directly by NYSED. So if you're unsure of what I'm talking about, then you likely were not asked by NYSED to do these changes. So let's get to it. Certain districts were asked by NYSED to update level 0 historical for last year's data pertaining to indicators 11 and 12. For indicator 11, the data that would need to be updated in level 0 historical is for any student that was missing information for indicator 11, meaning the date of the meeting and what was the outcome of that meeting. So you might have to work with your special ed office staff to get that data to update it in level 0 historical. For indicator 12, what could be missing for that particular indicator? Any student where a full IEP implementation date was not updated or did not occur in time for last year's reporting. So again, this is only for a select few districts. They were contacted directly not long after this indicator 11 and 12 memo came out earlier this month. So that's the update for that for you. And one last thing I do just want to plug, we have a newsletter. You might have heard me talk about it before. If you wish to subscribe to it, you can click this link once you've received this presentation. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. For our next information presenter, we have Mia from Testing Services.
Good morning, everybody. So, like Helen said, I am Mia. You know me, as well as John and Lori are your testing service team, and I'm here just to give you some updates and information. All right. So, first off, for our testing updates, we have our August regions has been exported to level 2. So you should see all that information in there for you now. And then the NICETEL, just so you are aware, we do it monthly on a monthly basis. So if you're not seeing a student that you just did stuff for, don't worry. It'll be there later. It just takes a little bit of time. And then lastly, for our updates, it is January Regions time, as many of you know. Your rosters and sheets have been delivered. The testing and window is the 21st to the 24th, and your SMS file requests have to be emailed to us. So for districts with starting with A through K, that would be John. So he's your contact. For L through P is Lori, and for R through Z is myself. You can email us individually, or if you prefer to email our testing contact, whoever has you will pick up that email. So whatever works for you guys, it has to be emailed to us. All right, next slide. Okay. So CBT testing. If you have any missing students who you can't transfer, just reach out to us and we can manually do it for you. For Dutchess County is myself, so you'll reach out to me. For Orange, it's John, and for Ulster and Sullivan, it's Lori. Again, you could email us separately, or if you want to do our testing email, we'll pick it up and we'll get in contact with you and we'll take care of it. Also, the classes can be created in Nextera now, and your accommodations have to be entered for students participating in the simulation, as well as your login tickets have to be printed after all your accommodations are finalized. So if you go in there and change something, your login tickets are no longer accurate for that. So just make sure making sure everything's up to date. And for the simulation, that will be the 21st through the 31st. And then for paper testing, we did email everybody with a spreadsheet to fill out for students who need to do the paper testing. So if you could just get that back to us by January 24th so that we can take care of that for you. And then, all right, you're good, Helen. Okay, so then last is the NISA update. So make sure your test administrator are doing the required training for NISA. Your rosters, first contact surveys, and personal needs preferences profiles can now be complete in Kite. For rostering and the first contact surveys must both be completed even if the student is not participating in the test. And then any students who need Braille testing, we just have to know it needs to be in their PNP by February 7th. All right. And then, like I said, if you have any questions, you can reach out to you can call us, that's our number, or you can reach out to our contacts or our personal numbers and emails. And also, we also have a newsletter that we've talked about before. I know we just did one this past week. Like Sarah had said, when you get this, if you want to check out our newsletter, just the link's right there, and we have all this good information in there as well every month. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a comment in the
Yeah.
chat. It was in regards to CBT about adding accommodations. It was Cornwall specifically.
I just replied on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah,
right.
Karen, if you could reach out to us, we got to look into that because I mean, I see we can add them. So we'll just have to figure out what's going on.
Thank you.
Hey, so thank you, Mia and John. going forward, we're going to hear from us, the data collection and reporting team. Let's see, who starts? I think it's me. Here we are. So we had this slide in our presentations for the past month or two. We are tracking the L1C errors, not the nicest Q, and the digital student, pardon me, the student digital resources surveys. There's good news that the L1C errors and warnings have both gone down from previous month. Last month, the errors were 694, so that's down to 658. The warnings are down. That had topped 25,000. Now we're near 24,000. The nicest Q is down. Previously, it was 5. Now it's at 3, or at least on December 31st, it was at 3. And the good news about student digital resources surveys migrated is that that is also up. It had been 17.8% last month, so the 20.1% is a really good increase. However, please remember that the Student Digital Resources survey and reporting of that survey is mandated by NICED. And so, as you've heard a couple times already this morning, that deadline for Student Digital Resources is coming up later this month. You have a couple weeks left before you have to get that information in. So, here's the thing. SED expects 100%. And so basic math tells us that 80% of the SDR has not been reported. That the actual due date is the 24th. So you need to remember, please migrate your student digital resources survey data by noon on Wednesday, January 22nd. Okay. Sam.
Thanks, Ellen. All right, so in January, Level 0 is going to change an informational warning message to a fatal error. So the time is now to check and see if you have any demographic informational errors for primary guardians. So as you see here, it's the DM1110 primary guardian missing. So resolve them now because it will stop you from migrating your data once that switches to a fatal error. All right, moving on. Thank you. So previously we reached out to State Ed for some clarification on reporting student restraint event. So we created this little chart to help us with that clarification. So there's nothing has changed with it. This is just to help answer some questions that we received. So if the location of the event is in the district, then the district reports it. So if it's at the BOCES, then only the BOCES reports it. So the district does not report if the event happened at the BOCES because that would be duplication of it. If it was at an added district placement, then the district who has CSE responsibility for that student would report it. So only students a district has CSE responsibility should be reported for this. So obviously this is a new collection this year. The state does understand it's an implementation year. So we're just asking that you do your best. And we do understand that the data may not be perfect. So the state has agreed that this will be in a future SIRS manual update. I haven't seen it yet, but keep a lookout for it. So like I said, nothing has changed with the reporting of this new collection. It's just to help with understanding it. So if you have any very specific questions about it, I would urge you to reach out to the Data Warehouse Help Desk, and we can look further into reporting that for you. Okay, so moving on. The state course codes here that I listed are the ones that NICED uses to determine class size. So this isn't a new process, but simply just a reminder to be sure that your class sizes are being captured correctly with these course codes. So why is it important, right? I always like to know that answer, because these class size calculations will show publicly on the New York State report card. So let's just look at ELA, for example. Notice there are 6 codes and there are 6 grades for the grades 3 to 8, right? So the 51031 is for grade 3, 51032 is for grade 4, and so on. And they follow that logic throughout. You can find these codes in the course catalog and in the SIRS manual. So any courses assigned with these course codes will culminate in a New York State exam for the grades 3 to 8 for ELA and math. So it is okay. I just want to clarify, it is okay to use these codes more than once in your district for courses, as long as the students are different in the courses, because you don't want the students captured more than once, because it will skew your class size calculations. Additionally, at the bottom here of the chart, you'll notice there's a PK to 2 section. I listed that there. So many districts, to capture those, they may add a homeroom course tied to those course codes to capture the class size. But how that's handled in your SMS is really a local or district decision, as long as those course codes are being used to capture the class size. So I don't see any questions in the chat. So with that, I'm going to move on. All right, so moving on, this year's state ed, they did change the way they capture PK, pre-K data. So if you aren't aware of this, please take a look at the memo that's linked here once the assets are shared. Office of Early Learning, OEL, what they're doing this year is they're taking the highest count of pre-K students on either Beds Day, which was October 2nd this year, well, 2024, or Child Counts Day, which is March 12th, 2025. So they're looking to see which count is higher, and they're going to take whichever is higher on either of those days. So in this screenshot, the SIRS 333, it does show this change. You'll notice on the left side, there are those 2 dates shown, and with whatever data has been reported thus far for the year, for those particular dates. So FYI, the SIRS 333 does update nightly or daily with every level 0 migration. So if you haven't done so already, I would recommend taking a look at this, because it will help you catch any potential pre-K enrollment issues. Okay. So moving on January 24th, we do have a few deadlines that we've all kind of briefly spoke about today. Just want to go into a few more items. So first we have the preliminary course instructor assignment and student class entry exit data that's due. This might look familiar from last month, but it's important, so we want to share it again. This data is used by OSA, which is the Office of State Assessment, and they use it for determining counts of students enrolled in courses leading to state assessments. So for this data poll, I want you to ask yourself a few questions. Are the instructors assigned to courses accurately? Like the teacher of record, SPED, ENL, or maybe incidental, are they all, do they all have those indicators? Are the right students tied to the courses? Are your students in dual credits classes, are they accurately reported? So a few slides ago, I mentioned those course codes for those courses that culminate in a New York State assessment for those grades 3 to 8. So the SIRS 330, the Student Class Course Instructor Summary Report, it can help you with verification. Some users say it's a little bit clunky, but it does update daily with every level 0 refresh. So you can also use the level 1 course instructor assignment and student class entry exit report that will help you with correcting or verifying that data for these deadlines. So second, we do have the student digital resources, as everybody has mentioned, right? You can use the data quality report on level 1 to check what you've reported thus far, or the SIRS 336 digital resources report. So it's an annual collection, so just make sure that your district or BOCES has a method for collecting these surveys. So for now, I'm just going to pass it back over to Helen. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. 3-year bed summary is available now on the IRSP. So what does that mean? There's going to be multiple reports, including reports on non-public and charter schools, which will show the current year's counts only. Looking at the enrollment summary report, which is the primary report, you're going to see a number of things, such as enrollment counts in a variety of placements, including non-pubs, charter, BOCES, etc. You'll see the program information, such as FERPL, students with disabilities, etc. And you will also see data sources or the data sources for each of the data points. The 3 years bed summary shows final information for the previous 2 years and current information for the current year, 24-25. So what do you do with all of this information? We ask that you verify it. It needs to be verified. And what do you do if you believe there is an error? Well, nothing can be changed for the 2 previous years. However, for 24-25 data, if it is your data, then you can, continue to update the data warehouse with that data. However, if it is not your data, then it depends. And there's helpful information in the report to guide you. So a pro tip for you here is to read the footnotes that are in the reports, because they often provide helpful information for you in order to review the report. For example, in the 3 years bed summary, footnote number 3 states that if you believe a non-public school is not reporting or reporting inaccurate enrollments to which you are fiscally tied, then you should please reach out directly to their district data coordinator. In cases in which the non-public data coordinator is not responsive, SED's IRS, the Information Reporting Services, may be able to assist you. So the file, everything in the file is important for you, not just the actual data, but definitely read those footnotes. So the public school registration process is something that happens every year. In order to make the changes to a school or school district, you must complete the public school registration process. And this is a slight update over last year, really just in the wording. So we wanted to provide this for you. So if you are opening a new public school, if you are closing an existing public school, modifying the grade organization of an existing public school, including adding pre-K, or changing the location of a school, then you have to follow the PSR process. The registration forms that you will need and the deadline are available for you here. You have to get this completed by March 1st. And pardon me, actually, I believe that the form is supposed to be added sometime in January. So if it's not there yet, keep looking. And again, that deadline of March 1st. And that means for any changes that you are going to be making for a public school in the 25-26 school year. So if you wanted to add open a new public school, the deadline to do this is March 1st. You're not opening that public school on, April 1st. You're opening this in September, right? So this is for the 25-26 school year is what the deadline is for. If you are anticipating making any changes, you're encouraged to send an email to the school registration at niced.gov with your summary of the proposed changes. And I think that is about it for that. If you do have any questions about this whatsoever, this is what we know about it. We're not supporting this any further, but if you need additional information, you can go ahead and look at the public school registration website, or you can contact the Office of Accountability directly. Newsletters everywhere. We have one too. And if you're on this meeting, there's a good chance you're already subscribed to it. But if you're not, you can go ahead and take a look, see right there. So looking ahead, the first thing we have for looking ahead is actually looking a little bit back, because last month we introduced our new level 0 access form, which needs to be filled out. If you are creating a new level 0 or ASAP account for someone, if you are editing an existing account, or if you're going to be deleting an account. We introduced it last month. We thought this was going to be a real easy, simple thing. And as it turns out, we're getting a lot of questions about how to fill it out. So a few things I wanted to mention for you in case I wasn't clear last time. Okay, so any of the blue fields, and when I'm talking about blue fields, I'm talking about this kind of blue. You can see my cursor, right? Yeah. So any of these blue fields here, they're a fillable field. You can type directly into those fields as the little animation is showing you right now. And not only can you type into them, we ask that you please do type into them in lieu of handwriting. The spaces aren't big enough for handwriting. Sometimes it's very difficult to read individual handwriting, and it's very easy for us to retrieve this form for you, copy paste, do an OCR scan, whatever we need to do in order to get the actual data out of it, even after you have emailed a version of it to us. So, okay. Blue fields indicate fillable fields. Secondly, the red highlights, you can see, the boxes are outlined in red, or the radio buttons are outlined in red. Anything that's outlined in red means that it's a required field. We cannot complete your request without those fields filled in. There are, as you might notice here in the access level and the ASAP level, a bunch of radio buttons that you can fill in. And then there's also this signature of the superintendent area that's not outlined in red. Those fields also are required to some extent. Choose the correct thing for you. That you do not need to choose a radio button in every row. And then also, these radio buttons are one thing and these radio buttons are one thing. So you might think that you can only choose one in this whole row, but the truth of the matter is you can choose one in this row and then one under the ASAP. Okay, that's red highlights. Type directly into the form for your computer. Thank you. You can then pre-print that pre-filled or print that pre-filled in form to hand to either yourself, as the DDC can sign it, or a superintendent to actually physically sign it. while there are things available in the world like digital signatures, we do require an actual physical signature from the DDC or a superintendent. So, so you're going to print this form. It's all filled out already, and then we can get a signature. After which point you're scanning this to email back to data warehouse, right? Here's a really cool feature of this. There's all these forms. Oh, I don't want to fill out all these fields. What a pain. What you're going to do is you're going to save the pre-filled in form with all of your information in it, your district name, requester name, so on and so forth. And it'll save to your computer. That way, the next time you have to put in a level 0 access form for someone in your district, it'll already be filled in. All you'll have to do is change the information for the username, this status, all the user information, and whatever access levels you need signed, and of course, a brand new signature. Okay, hope that's clear. And if you have any further questions on that, you can email Data Warehouse.
Helen, before we go on, I just want to do time check. It's 10:02.
Yes, thank you. If there are
Thank you.
people who need to go, we totally understand. Thank you for attending. We do have a few more slides left only, so we're just going to continue right now. And I know you've been hearing a lot about the coming changes for graduation measures, and you're going to keep hearing about those changes as SED rolls out their 3-phase plan for implementing Blue Ribbon Commission graduation measures. The New York State Board of Regents has introduced New York Inspires, a plan to transform education in New York State, focusing on 4 key transformations, which are adopting the New York State Portrait of a Graduate, redefining credits and learning experiences, sunsetting diploma assessment requirements, and moving to a single New York State high school diploma. This is one of the slides that you will find in the slide deck that is linked right here, which is a really good read. If you have a couple hours of time on your hands with nothing better to do, you can go ahead and read that entire thing. But as you can see, we're already well into the planning year with phase 1. We're in phase 1, right? It's going to last for a period. Oh, sorry, we're in the planning year. Pardon me. So phase 1 will begin this coming fall, and it'll last for a period of 2 years. It'll be followed by another 2-year period for the initial implementation, with full implementation and scaling up to continue until, I don't know how long. It doesn't say. Fall 2029 plus could mean to winter 2029, or it could mean forever. We're not really sure, but we're expecting that by the time 2030 rolls around, we should be in good shape. Okay, Sam.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay, I wanted to share this FAQ, which is linked here, as there was a change to the computer science certification requirements starting 24-25. So you might recall us mentioning this last year. So the following course codes, they'll require the computer science all grade certificate, the SOCE statement of continued eligibility, the CTE computer technology certificate, or a technology education certificate. So the FAQ does go through like various scenarios and different certifications and whatnot. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And the reason I'm mentioning it now is you may come across additional teachers showing up on your CSRS 328 teachers at a certification this year due to these new computer science requirements. So last year they may have shown as being in certification, but this year they're showing out. So read through that FAQ, see if it applies to any of your courses and teachers, and be sure that as you review that, if you do have anybody that falls into that, just make sure that you're looking at the 24-25 course to certification crosswalk and that you're not looking at last year's accidentally. And that is on the NICED website as well. Okay. So moving on, you may have noticed that we didn't release our January task list yet. That's because it's a new format. So once we share these assets, you want to make sure to bookmark this link for future use, as this is where we're going to be posting our task list from now on. So Helen, do we have time for me to share it live?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, so I'll just speak to a few things quickly then. So once you go in there, you're going to notice that the January task list has like collapsed groups where you can click in and see further data for each section. So if you want to print or save just specific sections, you can click on the ones that you desire and then choose to print to like PDF or choose a printer on your device. The good thing about the new task list is that it's no longer cumulative through the whole year. So we're going to focus just on the tasks for the given month. So it won't be so overwhelming. I hope you find that it helps you focus more on specific things for the given month. So if you have any questions about this as you look through it, just reach out to the data warehouse. You can put my name in the subject and I'll be able to help you further with it. But you'll be able to see all the task lists for this year thus far and last year as well in the old format. And there is a resources page that has various links that you probably use on a daily basis. So I urge you to look at it once you get that link. And thank you. I'm going to pass it back over to Helen.
Thank you, Sam. I just want to give a plug for this monthly task list. It's a really interesting reinvention of what we've been doing, and we do hope that it's going to be more user-friendly. If there are a lot of questions that come in about it, we may do a tutorial, a explainer video for it. So keep your eyes open for that. Okay. Let's see. Here's the 24-25 DDC meeting dates and recordings. This is in every slide deck. So if you ever need to know a registration link for an upcoming month, here they are all the way through the end of the school year. And then once we have the recording up on YouTube, we pop that link in here as well as send it to you in our monthly newsletter, which will be coming out soon within the next couple of days for you. And we'll have all this, a lot of this information in it as well. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any time for verbal questions today. So we are just going to say thank you very much for joining us today. And our next meeting is on Tuesday, February 4th at 9 a.m. also. And we look forward to seeing you then.